afternoon to everyone, and welcome to our session. My name is Diego Simón. I am the Chief Scientific Officer of a Spanish-based company. The name of the company is Alvinesa. And today we are going to talk about healthy aging is functional aging. So what does this mean? We are going to dig into the different clinical evidence talking about the triangle formed by vascular health, oxidation, and inflammation, and how this triangle can support resilience and recovery. Well, the objective has been defined in the own title. The agenda, we are going to talk a little bit about what is Alvinesa, the different trends, the different tendencies in this healthy aging, functional aging. After that, we are going to dig into this triangle. Remember, vascular health, inflammation, and then oxidation. And then we are going to talk a little bit about three different extracts, three different natural ingredients that we are producing and selling in Alvinesa. An olive extract, white olive, a grape extract, Vintera, and a synergy between olive and grape, that is terra leaf. Now we are going to talk a little bit about Alvinesa. Before starting to play the video, I would like to say just in a minute, okay, what is Alvinesa? Alvinesa is a company leader in the upcycling of co-product coming from the production of olive oil and wine. Once the olive oil is produced and the wine is produced, the majority of the active compounds are not in the oil, are not in the wine, are in the byproduct. Some years ago, these products were discarded. However, we take this byproduct and by means of our own process, based on extraction only with water and then purification by means of 100% physical method, resin members, we are able to get final end product whose value in the market is even greater than the initial byproduct from which byproduct were coming from. I mean, the price of our extract are greater than the price of 1 liter of wine or 1 liter of olive. So we are providing more value. This is not recycling, but upcycling. It's giving a step forward. And we are doing this in a circular economy way. Once we get the polyphenol from the byproduct, from the wine, from the olive, we take this depleted pomace, we can say, and we use it as biomass in order to get the energy that we need all over the process. This explanation is summarized in this video.
At Alvinesa Natural Ingredients, we extract the best of nature from grapes and olives. Our production process begins right where wine and olive oil production leaves off. We upcycle these materials using our exclusive extraction process, thereby maximizing the utilization of materials that in the past would have been discarded. Alvinesa's upcycling process yields new value-added ingredients with great health benefits. We are a company founded on the principles of a circular economy, and we are proud members of the Upcycled Food Association. We are fully committed to the environment. At Alvinesa, 95% of the energy we use is self-produced from renewable resources including our own biomass and our own solar electric facility in Spain. Our unique processes allow us to extract the following ingredients: grape and olive oil polyphenols, natural colors, natural tartaric acid, natural flavoring, grapeseed oil, and alcohols. Alvinesa's entire ingredient portfolio consists of upcycled ingredients with high sustainability and added value for use in foods, beverages, supplements, animal health, and industrial processes.
Okay, once we know a little bit about what is Alvinesa about, we are going to go into the topic of the chart this afternoon. So, what is healthy aging? Well, there is a clear interest in healthy aging from boomers to Generation Zeta. Obviously, the approach is different. I mean, seniors, boomers are more into mobility, are more into activity. Younger consumers, that can be Generation Zeta or even millennial, are more into the appearance and the emotional well-being. But at the end of the day, there is a clear tendency in healthy aging. To be concrete, right now ranks the number 3 between the different topics, just after weight management and heart health. In this slide, we can observe that the number of launches associated with healthy aging is increasing year by year, and exceed the number of launches in general. So we can see that this is a clear tendency about healthy aging. But perhaps we have to talk not only about healthy aging, but about functional aging. Why? Because today the market is looking for extract that could have more than just one potential, and the market is demanding product that can be combined with physical health and activity. At the end of the day, about, for instance, sport nutrition. So we are connecting healthy aging with functional aging. And in order to provide this, we have to talk about the 3 pillars, the triangle: vascular health, oxidation, inflammation. In this pyramid, we can summarize a little bit this equivalent between healthy aging and functional aging. I mean, what are the functional outcomes that we want to have regarding functional aging? We can talk about strength, we can talk about mobility, also cardiovascular health, recovery, and resilience. And what are the biomarkers in which we are going to put the focus? Inflammatory markers, as can be IL-6, oxidative stress, glucose lipid level, and also muscle function and endurance. And it's also important not to say, okay, I want this functional outcome by means of measuring these biomarkers, but when possible, we have to try to explain the different mechanisms. During the presentation, we are going to try to provide examples about it. And now, this is the famous triangle, all related with functional aging with healthy aging. It's important to have properly balanced inflammation, oxidation, and cardiovascular health. When all is balanced, our body is working properly. However, when one of these becomes unbalanced, we increase the risk of cardiometabolic disease, and also we have a decline in our functional capacity of individual. So this is the connection between healthy aging and functional aging. In order to provide an evidence, we need proper design clinical trials. Design randomized, placebo, then the study can be crossover or parallel depending on what you want to look for. The endpoints, the things that we have been commenting, oxidative stress or inflammation, metabolic readouts, and also some recovery endpoints associated, for instance, with sport nutrition. That can be the ONS, the late onset muscle soreness or counter movement jam, etc. And it's important that the strat that we use in order to get this output has to be standardized in the active profile with a perfect traceability and transparency. And very important, the consistency, the reproducibility from batch to batch. And now we are going to put some examples about this science that we can find in order to support our healthy aging, our functional aging. We are going to put 3 examples. One of them for olive extract. The second one is going to be a grape extract. And the last one is going to be a synergy between grape and olive. First one is an olive extract. The brand name is High Olive. and is an extract obtained from the olive fruit only by means of soft water extraction. We are not using any kind of solvent. That can be ethanol or ethyl acetate. We are only using water, and then we purify by means of different resins. This product is standardized in as little as 10% in hydroxytyrosol. And with this hydroxytyrosol, well, it's the only polyphenol accepted by EFSA with a claim regarding the cardiovascular health, in that case, the avoiding of the oxidation of the bad cholesterol, of the low density lipoprotein. We did this study. This is the summary of the design. Around 50 people in the range 40 to 70 years old. The doses that we used was 15 milligrams a day of pure hydroxytyrosol. It implies 150 milligrams of our Hydolive, randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled. The duration was 16 weeks, and it's important to explain that the population was people with pre-diabetes. Results. Before explaining the result, I would like to try to connect the result with the famous triangle: vascular health, oxidation, and inflammation. So we are going to try to explain about the 3 points of the triangle. First, cardiovascular health. So in that case, we observed that by means of the consumption of Hydolive, the group that was consuming Hydolive was able to decrease in a significant way the oxidated LDL. So it implies a lower risk of atherosclerosis and cardiovascular diseases. This is oriented for cardiovascular health. Now we can put the focus in the second point, oxidation. Regarding oxidation, we can see right up this effect in this biomarker of damage in the DNA. We can say that by means of the consumption of Hydolive, we observe a decrease in the parameter, observing that by means of the consumption of Hydolive, we have been able to protect the oxidation of our DNA. Right at the bottom, we can see another effect in the oxidation, antioxidation, in that case, of the proteins, of the carbonyls. More into the second pillar, the antioxidation. We can observe that by means of the consumption of Hydolive, the total antioxidant status in the group consuming Hydolive was increased, while maintaining the activity of this antioxidant enzyme that is the glutathione peroxidase. Last point of the triangle is the inflammation, and by means of the consumption of Hydolive, we were able to get a significant decrease in the biomarker of inflammation, that is IL-6. With this, we have covered the complete triangle: vascular health, oxidation, and inflammation. And last but not least was this result observed in the GLP-1 levels. It's important to explain that in our study, these results were taken in fasting, so this is not postprandial. When you want the GLP-1 to be increased, it's in postprandial in order to regulate the insulin, the sugar. However, we know that people with prediabetes, as is the case of this study, sometimes, as they are not able to regulate in a proper way the glucose, they experimented an increase in the GLP-1 in fasting, and this is not a good thing. That is the result observed in the graph. However, by means of the consumption of Hydolive, this group was able to control the glucose. So we can say that by means of the consumption of Hydolive, we can help in order to improve the glucose homeostasis. These results are published in the journal Clinical Nutrition, in a publication published last summer. So with this, we have been able to demonstrate that by means of the consumption of Hydolive, we can help our triangle: inflammation, oxidation, and cardiovascular health. Now, we are going to change a little bit the kind of extract. We are going to go from olive to grape. And we are going to talk about Vintera and how Vintera connect again with the triangle: vascular health, inflammation, oxidation. The first thing to be explained is what is Vintera Premium OPC. Vintera Premium OPC is a standardized grapeseed extract obtained from unfermented and carefully selected seeds coming from white pomace. In order to get this extract, what we do is to take the pomace, that is the byproduct in the production of wine. We taste this pomace and we do a solid liquid extraction with water, only water. It's a counter-current extraction. We feed the pomace that way. We introduce water that way. At the end of the line, the pomace is going to be depleted in polyphenols. And with that pomace, we separate the peels and the seeds. With the seed, we produce the grapeseed oil. And with the byproduct of the seed and the peels, we use it as biomass in order to get the thing that has been explained at the beginning of the presentation, this circular economy approach and our independence in the consumption of fossil fuels. And then what happened? Pomace advanced that way, water that way, so at the end of the line, we have a raw liquid extract that contains an important percentage of polyphenol. In order to increase the concentration, the purity in polyphenol, we have to employ different technologies, essentially physical processes, mainly a combination of resins, absorption resins, and different membranes, micro, ultra, and nanofiltration. Then we have the purified liquid extract, concentrated, and we convert it, we become in powder by means of a spray dryer. So that is the process in a very summarized way about the production of Vintera Premium OPC. For this product, we have concluded a couple of clinical studies. This is the first one that we have just sent to journal. In that case, was a group of 25 people, CrossFit trained men, 9 days supplementation, 2 weeks without, 9 days. Was triple blind because also the statistical people does not know about it. And the population, the range was from 18 to 35. And now we are going to try to connect this result with the triangle vascular health, oxidation, inflammation. Now, first, we are going to start with inflammation. Because of the very powerful anti-inflammatory effect of our extract, of our Vintera Premium OPC, we observed a significant reduction in the DONS after 48 hours. We were also observing an important recovery in the counter movement jam, and then regarding into the second pillar of the triangle, oxidative stress, we achieved this great result regarding the glutathione peroxidase. It means that our body, because we are consuming Vintera Premium OPC, has not the necessity of synthesize more glutathione peroxidase, but is able to manage in a more efficient way the oxidative load associated with oxidative stress. And with this, we have completed 2 points of the triangle. The part of the inflammation because of the DONS and the part of oxidation with the glutathione peroxidase. But what happened about cardiovascular health? How connect cardiovascular health with Vintera? Well, I have not been able to include it, the result in the presentation, because we received it last week. But by means of consuming Vintera Premium OPC, we did a clinical study, in that case with 12 people more than 50 years old, people with hypertension, 1 week treatment, 1 week without, 1 week treatment, crossover placebo randomized study, and we obtained great results regarding the cardiovascular health, mainly about systolic pressure and also about flow mediated dilation. In the case of systolic pressure, we were able to observe a decrease of 7 millimeters of mercury. That is quite a lot. How to translate it? According to literature, per 1 millimeter of mercury decrease, we decrease the probabilities of having cardiovascular disease and mortality in around 8%. So if we multiply 3 by 8 millimeter of 7 millimeter of mercury per 3, we obtain a 21% of less probability of mortality and cardiovascular risks after the chronic consumption of Vintera Premium UPC. And what about flow mediation dilation? In this case, we observe in the group consuming Vintera Premium UPC an increase of 2.2% of flow mediated dilation. How this can be translated into health? According to literature, per 1 increase 1% of flow mediated dilation, the probability of suffering a cardiometabolic disease of mortality is around 8%. So 2.2 multiplied by 8 is around 18% of less probability of mortality and cardiovascular risk. So if we do the average between the result with the systolic pressure and with the flow mediated dilation, we can say that by means of the consumption of Vintera Premium UPC, we can decrease the probabilities in around 20% of suffering a cardiovascular disease or mortality. And of this way, we can connect Vintera Premium UPC with cardiovascular health, inflammation, and then oxidation. For Hydrolif, we have just published the clinical trial, and for Vintera, we are going to have published in the following months. And now, I would like to talk about this brand new product that is a combination between grape and olive. What is coming the name? TheraLeaf. Thera is coming from Vintera, that is our brand name from grape, Vintera, and leaf is coming from Hydrolif. That is our brand extract coming from olive. So it's a synergy. This product is not as simple as blending the powder Hydrolif with the powder Vintera, because if you go around the show and you try to get an hydroxytyrosol in the TDS, you are going to observe that it can be standardized in 10%, 15%, 2%. But the thing that is not hydroxytyrosol or tyrosol, what it is are carriers, maltodextrin, dextrin, because you cannot dry Hydrolif, you cannot convert hydroxytyrosol from liquid to powder without adding a carrier. Also, you have to add sometimes some anti-caking, and it implies that the quantity of acids is going to increase. So you cannot find any extract in the market standardizing hydroxytyrosol that does not contain carrier. The rationale from my side was, okay, what happened if we can combine hydroxytyrosol and grape and at the same time removing any kind of carrier, any kind of anti-caking? And that's exactly what is TheraLeaf. This product is standardized in 9% of hydroxytyrosol and 90% of total polyphenol bifoleinchocoltol. The 100% of the product is grape or olive. No carrier, no anti-caking. We have preliminary result in order to measure the antioxidant capacity, result of ORAC, result of DPPH, and we have observed that the sum of the parts, the whole thing, the TheraLeaf, is greater than the sum of the parts. So I mean, if you take Hydrolif, if you take Vintera, you do a mixture, and you calculate the theoretical ORAC or DPPH value that you will get, is much lower than if you take TheraLeaf. So of this way, we have been able to demonstrate a synergy. At present, we are carrying out an in vitro study oriented to women's health, and in the next month, we are going to start a clinical study, holistic approach relative also to women's health, because we know that this product, because of the no containing carrier, present a very powerful antioxidant effect, very powerful anti-inflammatory effect, And obviously, it can help a lot in vascular health, because we have to remember one thing. Hide olive, EFSA has accepted that is able to decrease the bad cholesterol, the LDL. And regarding Vintera Premium OPC, I have explained this reduction of 7 millimeters of mercury in systolic pressure, and this is increasing 2.2% in the flow-mediated dilation. So it makes sense that the combination is going to be able to help us with the famous triangle: oxidation, inflammation, and then vascular health. But in some point of the presentation, we had been talking about, okay, it's important the outcomes, it's important the biomarker, but what about the mechanism? During the presentation, it's true that in 30 minutes, I do not have enough time in order to explain all the mechanism, but perhaps it's a good opportunity to talk about a little bit some mechanism. So if we take the example of Vintera Premium OPC, I have told, okay, I have just received the result, I have discovered this 7 millimeter of mercury reduction and this increase in 2.2% of flow-mediated dilation. But why happened this? Because Vintera is standardized in flavin-free oil coming from the grape. Catechin, epicatechin, different dimer, trimers, OPC, the oligomeric fraction. And what happened? That when we consume this OPC, what happened in our body is that we are able to synthesize more quantity of nitric oxide. That is a very powerful vasodilator. Because of that, decrease the systolic pressure and increase the flow-mediated dilation. So when possible, it's very important, okay, I want to get this, I need to measure this, but then when possible, I think it's important to try to explain in the paper why it's working, the mechanism about it. So this is just an example. Conclusion, different message to take home. Well, it seems that the healthy aging opportunity is becoming day in, day out functional. We need to have, okay, healthy aging because we want to have functional aging, mobility, activity, recovery. In order to get this, it's very important to have a proper balanced triangle: oxidation, vascular health, inflammation. If some of these points becomes unbalanced, we increase the risk of mortality and cardiometabolic risk. Because of that, it's important to offer to the market a standardized extract backed by science. For me, this is very important, that can help in order to have balance our own triangle. Examples of product that can help us, in the case of alvinesa, hide olive, that is the olive extract; Vintera, that is the extract coming from grape; and last but not least, Teraleaf, that is the last product; and this Synergy, that, as I have explained, is the only extract that you can find in the market that contain a high percent of hydroxytyrosol, but without having any kind of carrier, any kind of anti-caking. Thank you very much.